My name is Betsy Helgeson,
My name is Cheney McCall.
My name is James Bridges,
and I am the Director of Dining Services.
I am the executive chef.
and I am the warehouse manager for the dining services here on campus.
The University of Minnesota, surprisingly enough for me, is a trailblazer in terms of sustainability. Recently, I was at a presentation and at a conference where we identified what campuses had retail, and people raised their hand. And then asked how many folks were interested in having compostable containers as part of that program, and some of those hands went down. And at the end, the last question that was asked was how many are 100% compostable, and I was the only person in a room of 150 people with my hand still up. So I think the University of Minnesota Duluth should be proud. I would love to take credit for this, but it was a program that was in place when I came. I am proud that we continue to support it, but we should be very proud of the steps that we have taken, because we are far ahead of most colleges and universities.
Unlike other schools, UMD, our dining services operation, is still self-op. A lot of other universities have their operations outsourced to big companies. Those companies often do a lot of, bagged soups, instant potatoes, canned chili, hot dogs, and things like that. For UMD Dining Services, we do a ton of scratch cooking. We make fresh soups every morning. We make beautiful sauces. We cook large batches of pasta, and our mac and cheese is made in 300-pound batches at a time. And like I said, we do everything we can to make every meal from scratch for our community. Sustainability really means responsibility to the environment.
Just help the environment the best that we can.
Replenishing the things that we use as resources.
Just keeping items out of landfills and cutting down on food waste.
Sustainability in dining services means a lot of different things. It can refer to how efficiently we use ingredients in our production areas, trying to reduce waste and make sure that we're using everything that we can. It can reflect the amount of paper packaging that we require to sell our foods, but even the things that come from our purveyors onto our campus.
We spend a lot of time here and a lot of effort in finding really good packaging that's eco-friendly, or sourcing products that are made locally, so that we're spending less time on travel from point A to point B to get our products in.
Sustainability can be locally procured ingredients, and so trying to work with farmers and growers and farmers unions to try to get products on our campus that are from Minnesota, or even more geographically close to campus.
We have been sourcing some really great salmon from a fairly local resource.
Choosing ingredients, foods, and processes that don't have a big carbon footprint can be really important. I was really fortunate, I have to be honest, when I walked through the door that this campus was actually making quite a few sustainability efforts within dining services. There was already a commitment to be 100% compostable when I arrived, and I would say that they were executing it with real intent and were successful. We have continued that process and tried to honor it. It was challenging during COVID to get a lot of those components, and yet we still maintained our commitment, which I think was a real coup, given how challenging it was for supplies and manufacturing during COVID.
At the end of the day, we gather up anything that can't be used, and we cool it within the standards to make sure that it's safe to be reused, and then we often will repurpose it. We'll take simple ingredients that came back from a service, and we'll turn it into something else exciting and new, so that we can serve it in a way that makes it still delicious, but also not wasteful.
I would say that we are focused on pulping here and composting, which was in place when I arrived as well.
Anything that's been put out on the line, it certainly can't be reused. Unfortunately, there is a little bit of waste, but every little bit of waste gets put back into our environment in the best way possible. We have a pretty good composting program
where we take food scraps, both from production and from our students' waste, and pulp that, and then it actually gets composted.
Yeah, they got like the pulper out in the kitchen that will break down like the food waste, but that's brought down to the dock here and put into the food compost bins.
Any food waste that we have actually gets pulped down into kind of a ground down into kind of a crumble, and then it gets sent out to local farms to be turned into compost to grow more new food.
We currently have 100% compostable to-go containers in our food court, which also is incorporated into the pulping and composting process that we have.
Our main vendors there are going to be Twin Pours Paper right here in Duluth, and then we also work with a woman-owned company out of the cities called Compost It All by North Star. We get a lot of products from them also.
Some of the goals that we have for the future is perhaps reducing some of those compostable pieces in terms of the to-go containers and investing more money, time, and energy into reusables. So we're exploring, is plastic the right choice for a reusable container? Is stainless more responsible and better? Could bamboo be an option? And those are things we're assessing right now, which I think will be a really important growth piece for our campus in sustainability efforts. I think sustainability and building relationships and building culture come together really well on a university campus. Students are often passionate and idealistic and really care about where their food came from and where their waste is going.
It really plays, I think, a big role in community, just in that sharing. Sharing is caring.
And so we can galvanize around some really great conversations, and I think always have excited, passionate, and idealistic goals in mind to try to achieve and explore together and experiment with and learn from. I find students are really excited about waste. And every year we have new freshmen who come to us and talk to us about the waste that we create, and sometimes make some assumptions that we aren't addressing it. So when we share with them what we do and we walk them through those steps, they're so impressed and excited. And it's a great moment of learning, and it reignites for us that we're proud of what we do. When we talk about foods that we want to offer in our spaces and how those can be more sustainable, students are often intrigued by that conversation and are interested to understand how sometimes our guilty pleasures or our comfort foods aren't always sustainable as things that might be more thoughtful.
Food is love, and really, at the end of the day, it creates memories. You know, a lot of people associate food with the best times of their lives. They associate food with the people they love the most, and also it creates an environment where people can share and, you know, break bread per se.
One of the things that we're exploring right now is Indian foods and curries, which hold really well in the superior dining. Offer an opportunity to have vegan or vegetarian or very specific dietary needs just inherently through the recipes, not because they've been modified, but because that's what they are. And often they're really sustainable dishes as well in terms of economics and the food choices. And I think students respond to that, and when we have deeper conversations, become intrigued and learn and grow from that. And it also builds their palate, which I find exciting.
When I first started here at UMD, it was a much different model than what we're doing now. There was a lot of like more buffet style food going out. It was very cookie cutter. In the time that I've been here, we've grown exponentially in our ability to make scratch food, to really offer, you know, fresh and exciting options for our community.
Digging deeper, exploring what sustainability can mean from a provider standpoint and engaging that with a consumer standpoint of the student is a challenge, but a really textual one, and one that students really do respond to. We have ongoing projects that we are working on all the time. I think the part that I'm trying to help contribute to, and the team that works with me, is procuring local ingredients, which is very challenging. And it's being open-minded to perhaps sometimes local ingredients from a small farmer can be a bit more expensive than industrial produced ingredients or meats or products. Sourcing our food here on campus is part of what we call a bid system. And because we're a state entity, we have to identify what we want to source as a group and present that out to different companies and give them an opportunity to bid on those products from us. And so it's a fairly open market system.
My job mostly consists of working with the vendors. We reach out and try to find the best products at the best cost. We do work with some of our bigger broadline vendors like Cisco and US Foods. They're able to source some of those items that aren't readily available, and we can bring them in on our regular shipments to cut down on costs. We'll receive daily deliveries, and they usually start right at 5 and then they go throughout the day.
They get to bid on those products, as well as a number of other larger companies and some smaller, more local ones. We make decisions largely based on price because we're responsible stewards to the university, and that is part of our obligation. Now, the next layer of decisions that we can make also for some smaller food contracts is to also buy locally. So for example,
We're talking about like local rices, wild rice especially. That's something that comes from within about 200 miles of here.
Superior Fresh, for one, is one that we use out of Wisconsin.
We're talking about salmon, whitefish, or trout. We do source our ground beef locally. Cheeses and things of that nature. In the fall, we'll bring in gourds, lettuces, cabbages, anything that we possibly can, we do to get things in here that are super fresh and support our community.
while coffee is certainly not grown in Duluth, we do buy our coffee from Duluth Coffee Company, which is a locally owned and operated company, and so we invest in that respect. We look at how conventional meats can be raised. We know that has a significant carbon footprint, so sometimes we think about smaller animals have smaller footprints. The fishing industry has some really well documented results on reducing their carbon footprint and the impact they have on the planet.
They do aquaponics with their farming and is very fresh and beautiful when it comes in.
We know vegetarian choices often can have a lower impact. And so we are introducing those dishes all the time to the students in an effort to create some sustainable eating habits for our students that might serve them for a lifetime. Our partnerships with local businesses from UMD impact our local and community, and I would imagine in very large ways. You know, some of this I have not done a study to see what the full economic impacts are, but we support local businesses.
If we can buy local, provides jobs for people and also cuts down on the transportation costs, which we can then pass on to the campus here.
A lot of times in the industry that we're in, we'll make connections with people that reach out to us. We also do a lot of networking to find resources through different conferences and things of that nature, where we're able to kind of connect with more people and purveyors that have the products that we're looking for.
From a small piece like Duluth Coffee Company, who supplies all the coffee the Dining offers, to the fact that we source our donuts from Johnson Bakery. We get produce from local farmers. We help get products from our local land lab, which is part of UMD's fabric. The volume that we can create and the demand that we have can create jobs. It can sustain businesses. It can make mortgage payments for folks, right? We are tied to our community. Of course, they contribute to us with students, with vibrancy, with engagement, with community involvement, and we try to return that sort of commitment with what we can do with them locally as well. Sustainability is important because our planet, as we all well know from watching television and from having conversations and from listening to our scholars that are in our school and outside of our school, the planet's in trouble, right? Global warming is affecting weather everywhere. It's affecting the safety of people's lives and their homes. So any steps that we can take to make better choices, to reduce our carbon footprint, to offer logical foods, to make better dining choices, packaging choices, shipping choices, has a direct impact. And we're a large purchaser. So our decisions impact even more dollars and more miles and more carbon, right? So we have to be thoughtful. And if we can make a decision between two products and one is slightly better, then that is probably a good decision. And I want to model that behavior. I'd love to live that behavior. And I want to support students in having those ideals as they move forward as leaders of our community to continue to make good decisions.